Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we're picking up literally after the events of, last week's reveal and everything. So, first and foremost, obviously, it's, there's still no hiding her hair of, where Alex or Michael is, or, what Elena, where she is and what they're fully up to and everything. Because obviously, Max was looking into some bank statement stuff, and obviously Liz was looking for a pen to write some stuff down, and she found the vials. Obviously, he's trying to make it, Max is trying to make it seem like, oh no, Liz, don't worry about it. It's just stuff from the last time, it's just and she's like, the fact of the matter is this could be very bad, because she even realizes he is still taking and stuff, because she's saying especially in large doses, it's supposed to be a little bit here and there for memory loss and stuff like that, but large doses can do too much to your body. But for him it's no, he's trying to pretend everything's okay, he's fine. So obviously both of them are just kind of splitting up work, trying to figure out first and foremost this whole Elena situation. So obviously Max is with Cam, looking into I forgot how they got there, but it was a whole address they ended up finding, and they broke in and everything, and it was a case. At first there was some liquid from one of the pods, and it's and even Cam's being yep, I've officially gone too deep in this because I understood literally everything you just said. So it's a situation of they found letters, and it's oh, and she's oh, look, Watson, a clue. And he's I'm not Watson, you're Watson. Watson. Jeez, I couldn't say that. And she's yeah, sure. So at the same time, there's a whole situation with Maria going to see her mom. And then Maria's okay, the person who took you was Elena. She's no, Elena's my friend and stuff like that. But then she's but then Maria starts thinking about it. So she's wait a minute, the toxin that was in Jenna, it wasn't in you. So how could you were with her for a whole month? You're close enough with Elena to know when you see her, you would know that if you spend the entire month with her. Have you been protecting her this entire time? I was whoa. And for her, it's the fact of the matter is, it's just kind of Elena's kind of in the right here, and it's she's wait, what? I was wow, is your mom anti-alien or something like that? I guess it's it seems like she knows part of the story, but not all of it, because essentially it turns into a situation of she's Alex and Michael are missing. It's don't worry, she has no business going after. She won't hurt them, which in the grand scheme of things, you're wait, what? So you do know that Michael's an alien, right? So I was curious about that. I was maybe she doesn't know. But Isabel shows up and she's hey, I'm your, I mean, to be I forgot what she said exactly, but she was basically oh, I'm your aunt. Wish we had more time to really kind of get to know each other. But it's it's are you sure about this, Maria? Maria's yeah, go ahead. So she gets inside of her mind, and it's oh, Elena and Mimi met. And it's so interesting because I think I remember what started all this, because who was it that was looking into a number? I think it was Elena's boyfriend Dirk was saying she kept getting calls from a certain number, and that number was to the place that Mimi was at, the facility Mimi was at. So kind of putting this all together. So, but it seems that night when Mimi got kidnapped, Elena came to her because she saw that Rosa was bad. And obviously Jim had told her all this stuff about aliens and stuff like that, but she thought it was crazy, didn't believe him, much no one believed Mimi about it. But now it's if aliens are real and everything, so it's but wait, because even Liz was but the fact is, if my mom's mad about aliens because she thinks one killed Rosa, the fact of the matter is an alien also brought Rosa back, so maybe this can change things, it's but I'm will that change anything? I don't know. But even when Isabel is inside of her mind, Mimi fights back, and to the point her nose starts bleeding, and that Isabel's nose starts bleeding. It's oh yeah, it's just kind of you fighting back when I was in your mind. And Mimi was in my mind, what are you talking about? When Isabel tries it again, though, and it's interesting because Mimi talks about the fact is, you guys think I'm, crazy or whatever, but for her, it's basically she's able to time, at first I was is it just purely her ability, or is it just kind of a combination of just what it's, because the whole thing is, it's degenerating her mind. She's oh, you think I'm just crazy, but I'm time traveling. So essentially, basically, she's time traveling to specific moments, and just because obviously the power allows, Maria to see the future, but now it seems like they can basically time travel their mind. She's like, I could see Maria's like past or future. Because remember what Maria ended up seeing her own past at one point. She was in like the bar and everything, and she saw a vision of herself, and it's like, what's that all about? I thought you could see the future, but it's like, no, they can basically see time in a certain way. So it's like Isabel's powers of getting inside people's minds, but it goes a little not a little, quite beyond that. So I was like, oh, that's such an interesting development. I mean, considering the fact this is kind of like, it's like a adjacent ability to Isabel's. I mean, they are family and everything, but still I was like, that's fascinating. So, because at first I was like, oh, she just seem crazy because she's doing that? Or is it because she is kind of crazy, but the fact of the matter is her powers kind of lean it? Because that was the whole thing. That's why Michael doesn't want Maria using her powers, because eventually it basically do to her mind what it did to her mom's. But her mom kind of gives her this cryptic message at the end about you just have to believe, look for the water sign or something like that. So there's that. Cam and Max are looking through all these letters, and it's like these are like years and years of letters between Jim and Elena, and it's like, and even Max being like, whoa, like these are letters going up until like Rosa had died, and he's like, man, like even after their affair 20 years ago, they were still in love. And Cam was like, oh yeah, like someone being so in love and never letting go of an Orteca. Oh wow, yeah, that's so weird. And looks at Max, and Max just kind of looks at her. It is interesting how like, people are kind of obsessed with that family. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of weird when you actually think about it. I mean, Noah was kind of obsessed with her too, Rosa as well, so. But regardless, but then Max start piecing certain things together, because he was like, the fact is there was money that was given to the medical examiner at the time, and it's like, okay, so it's like, he was like, we never actually did find out how Noah got access to Rosa's body. He must have known about the connection between Rosa and Jim, knowing that Jim was upset about Rosa, so he kind of pointed him in the direction of the pod and everything, because apparently Noah didn't get the pod. He didn't take the pod back until after Jim had already died. So, but also he was like, yeah, Jim came to me. He was like, we need more people like you on the force. And he was like, now he's thinking like, maybe Jim knew all along that I was an alien, and that was his way of just, so that begs the question of, I mean, because that would also mean that he knew putting Rosa in that stasis was enough to keep her alive from being completely dead and whatnot, so it's like, I mean, obviously we know from Elena's conversation that Jim did know about obviously he knew about everything in Caulfield, because that alien that ended up giving him cancer, so obviously he was neck deep in all of this, but it's like, at what point did he learn about everything is a big question. I mean, because he had a piece of the ship and everything, so. But then, like, Cam notices the fact is Max is acting kind of, like, super wired. Because Liz was saying that basically he would get very hyperactive. Like, adrenaline would be pumping through his body like crazy. So it's a situation of like, he seemed like he was almost on speed or something, but luckily, Cam was like, oh, I'm not going to, because he was like, but he was basically kind of like very like slyly trying to insinuate like, Cam, maybe you could use your friendship with Liz to steal me some more of her drugs. And she's like, no, I'm not going to use my new friendship with Liz to steal alien steroids for you. He's like, I didn't say. She's like, you didn't have to. The look on your face kind of suggested it. So. Then there's the whole situation with Michael and Charlie. Charlie's working on a chemistry aspect of the bomb. Michael's actually building the bomb itself. And obviously Charlie, in her mind, she's like, I didn't expect this weapon to be what it is. Like, she meant to use it as a means of, like, it meant to do more good. It's like, this way, when you're going after one particular target, like some terrorist group, it's like you go after the person you're going after rather than being casualty. She thought I was doing good, like, but obviously it comes down to whoever gets their hand on it. So it's like, all right, so what is this specific DNA they want to use? And then Charlie's like, alien DNA, pure through and through alien DNA. In that moment, Michael's like, shit. So I'm literally helping make the weapon that she plans on using to, like, basically genocide all aliens. And it's like, that's just an interesting thing. That's why I was like, man, it was just so interesting to me that Elena would end up being the villain in this case. But then, Michael is talking to her, telling her that she doesn't have to do this. And she says an interesting line where she was basically like, if there is no disaster, there won't be either some need for justice or there won't be justice. I was like, what the hell does that line mean? It means so much now in retrospect, because I think Michael learned about it from Alex at the very least, like that base, because then like Elena showed up at Jesse's place and had to meet like the cleaner and stuff like that, and it's like, wait, oh, I was like, I guess he wouldn't know wouldn't he know who you are? I mean, your kids went to school and everything together, but I guess it's like, well, maybe you weren't as around much then. Plus, the fact of the matter is, you're wearing a wig and everything. But I was like, I mean, I guess she did enough to hide her face without her. I guess because for her, I guess it's kind of maybe in her luck, it was kind of like, oh, it's just some other lady, so he probably didn't really associate it, so. But nevertheless, it's like we end up finding out that everything Elena's doing isn't about killing aliens. It's about killing Jesse, because Jesse's the one that killed Jim, the man that she was in love. Like, as we can tell, they set it up to be like, oh yeah, that affair, even though it happened 20 years ago, they were still madly in love with each other, still writing to each other. He kept all the letters, and it's like, holy shit. I was like, that's so interesting. So her mom, Elena isn't technically the villain. She's trying to get justice. She's just going about it kind of the wrong way. And that ends up being a conversation, because obviously Michael got back and told the group about, what was up and everything of like, oh yeah, she's not trying to kill aliens. She's trying to get revenge for her her murdered lover. And it's like, that's a lot to take in, especially for, Liz, because her and Rosa were looking through the letters, and even Liz was like, holy shit, this is beautiful. Like, I never knew my mom was that capable of love, which is interesting because, it's just kind of like, I mean, that's even sad that she has to say that, like, oh, I never knew my mom was capable of this kind of love. She sure as shit never, like, gave any to me and Rosa like that. But the fact of the matter is, and even Rosa being like, oh, can I keep one? Use it for blackmail. But now it's a situation of, obviously initially they wanted, because obviously this is all going down at CrashCon. She wanted to get their dad as far away from this, and just Diego like being all around and stuff like that. I was like, that's suspicious and stuff like that. And I'm just like, because obviously like Liz is stressed because of everything that's going down, and Diego's just kind of got this look of like, oh, because she's like, just trust me, I have this gut feeling. And he was like, oh, Liz I know doesn't go by gut feeling, she goes by facts and science and stuff like that. She's like, well, I'm changing. And just he had this look on his face like, I'm alright. And then he just kind of was creeping in the background. I was like, this is going to turn into what I think it did. We'll get to it soon enough. But I was like, I was just waiting to see what ends up happening with this Diego situation. I thought was kind of interesting. I did like that line of like from Liz where it's like Max was like, oh yeah, me and Kyle, and she's like, oh, why don't you go ahead and invite Diego and all three of you can basically hang out. It's like, yeah, it is. It's like two of your exes are getting buddy. It's like, go ahead and throw in my ex-fiance too. Why don't you go ahead and make it a triple? It's like, yeah, but it's like, what was it? She was like, why don't y'all go do this? But he was like, nah, sadly that's not keto, so neither one of them would be down for it. But whatever the case may be, I just thought that was kind of funny. But it turns out Elena actually gave the real bomb to Charlie to destroy, because for her it's a thing of like, well, you might want to be the one to destroy it because you are the one that made the weapon, that you made this all possible. So I figured you might be the one that you want to destroy it. So it is a situation, it's like, because obviously she didn't want this to kind of end up ultimately falling into the wrong hands, but that still leads itself to a very interesting conversation that Liz said, because it's like, my mom could have made a decoy, but she went through the trouble of going through, like, even like replacing the real bomb with a fake. You didn't have to actually make a bomb that would actually kill Jesse. And then, Max is like, well, she knows that if she had made one, Max was like, if she had made one, it would have just pissed him off and he would have kept going. But for her, it's like, for Liz, it's like, but it doesn't just stop there. Like, she doesn't realize the catastrophic effect that this would have, the domino effect of like, the fact is, if she gets caught, all the headlines are going to be like, oh, this Mexican killed this decorated military officer. So it's like, then, because her mom's actions don't affect her, it's just not even just going to affect. My immediate thought was like, well, yeah, because a bomb is also going to potentially kill Rosa being part alien. I was like, what next? Because that's why I was also confused, like why Mimi was so okay with everything at first too. Because I was like, your daughter's your daughter and you are both part alien. It's in your DNA. So I was like, why are you so okay with it? But it's like, oh, because she knew that it was all about going after Jesse, going after the Maines family specifically, so wasn't too worried about it. But I just thought that was, like I said, now in retrospect, it's like, because you knew it was going after the Maines family, you weren't worried about you or your family, or even like, because she had no plans on killing Alex. The only person she was after mainly probably would have been Flint and Jesse, more so Jesse, but Flint was kind of that same ideology as well. So, but it's just what she was saying. I thought what Liz was saying I thought was interesting, of just kind of like, because she also feels that herself. It's like no matter what happens, she's even scared that like every little action she makes, and she's like, I have to be perfect because every little thing I do wrong could reflect poorly upon any Mexican. Like any mess up I have, is someone's going to use that against some other Mexican down the road. And I was like, that's a heavy burden to kind of feel, and and I guess like kind of in that same vein, I guess I've never really thought of it like that. It's just, I mean, I've never been in those direct shoes, but like adjacently, I guess it's never, I don't know, I've just never, nothing against her view in the world. Just, I guess I've been fortunate enough to be in this situation where I've never had to look at the world that way. I'm sure plenty of people have, and it's just, for her, it's like, oh yeah, the president will end up talking about my family. And it's just because even using the situation of Rosa, who got blamed for everything. Rosa, like, at no point in time did like anything else fall on the other girls that were with her. It was 100%, oh, it's Rosa. And even that turned into a, racism situation, in Roswell. So, but it is a situation of, that's why Liz wants to do so much, because she's like, if I can be that symbol of hope, like I can be that inspiration for someone else, like the good she could do with her science and stuff like that. Because Max is like, okay, you're done, we'll go together, we'll get up all your stuff, but she doesn't want to give up on her research. Because there's like so much good I could do. The fact is, I could be that symbol for someone else, that inspiration, just kind of like the opposite, like where her mom, like it could be a detriment. She wants to be something that's like, oh, something positive that could be reinforced, to let people know, like, even if you are Mexican, you can do what I did. Like, I want to be that prime shining example of what you could be and what you can do. But for Max, he looks at it, it's like, yeah, but you're going to threaten my family. But she's like, I get that you worry about the DNA stuff, but for him, it's also a thing of like, but at the end of the day, he's like, this isn't about helping people, is it? This is just about your own validation. And even she admits, like, she wants some recognition, but she's still trying to say that it's about everything. She's like, I'm not like Jesse. Everything Jesse does is purely because, oh, he wants to be recognized. But that whole trait, it gets sidetracked. They don't ever go back to it, but that thought process made her go like, but the fact is, would he randomly use this to randomly at some con just kill a handful of aliens? No one's going to think much of it. It's just going to be like, oh, some random teens that won't make that much of a headway news-wise. So it's like, he's going to do something else. We're missing a piece to this. So they figured that he's probably going to try something big and blame it on the aliens and kill them, because it's like, oh, make them look like the monster and the terror. It's like, I've been telling you all this time, like, people didn't believe me. Look, aliens are here and they're this. Oh, look at me, I'm the grand hero. Like feed that hate mongering, to fuel it. Use the biggest thing factor to use against use people's fear and weaponize it, essentially. So that, but more so than anything, it is him to aggrandize himself to be this hero. So that ended up being their plan. That's what they figured out ended up being his plan. There's a conversation between Alex and Flint, and I thought was kind of interesting, because Alex was still kind of like, you don't have to do this, but he's like, I'm not doing this to impress Dad. He's like, the fact is, Dad put me in a position to kind of take over Operation Shepherd, but he shut it all down. So it's like, no, like this is me. This is on me to get this done. So, but also Alex is like, I get it. Like he what he did to us, and he was like, Dad never did anything to us. It's like, he made you, yeah, he might have like beat me, and he may not have ever done anything to you guys, but he made you watch to show you like what a man is. And obviously that pissed off Flint, but it gave Alex a chance to escape. Sadly, he didn't handcuff Flint. Maybe he did, and Flint managed to get out, but he ends up, we see later on, handcuffing Charlie to that heater, and ends up like setting a fire, because he plans to burn the place down, and I guess make it cover his tracks and stuff like that. So there's all of that. At the Crash Con, Home Dude reveals a alien tech. And it's like, okay, and then Old Man Sanders is kind of like, that looks like the thing that Luis and Nora had that went boom, that exploded in the barn. And it's like, okay, so he's planning on starting it. This is going to be his catalyst that's going to cause an explosion. He's going to kill a lot of people and then blame us and then kill us, to set an example. So, but then Max touches it and then it resonates in some shape or form. I'm like, I guess because of his memories coming back, he knows more. He's like, whoa, he touches it and he's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, yeah, it's actually a controller. He's like, I think this controls the ship. So it's like, Max, you need to get out of here, because everything's set up to frame Max behind all of this anyway. there's a payment to make it seem like he was the one behind the attack before it happened, so to set him up in advance. So, but then before Max leaves, he ends up taking a piece of paper that has a symbol on it, and I think it's more symbols he's remembering. Then Liz, went back to her lab. She was trying to work on a way to destroy the ship, or rather the remote. But lo and behold, we saw Diego looking at him, was like, hey, he's going to follow her to her lab. And when she was leaving, he goes in. Because it's like, is that purely like, oh, I got to find out what she's working on because she's keeping it super hush-hush? Like, I don't think he makes it seem like he came here out of the goodness of his heart. It's like he didn't. I think he found this to be an opportunity where you can be in a position where you owe him. He was trying to be friendly about getting you on his side, but now it's like, well, I can't do that. So either he's trying to be sneaky and just be like, oh, I'm curious to see what she's working on. Either it's kind of like an espionage thing of like, oh, I'm going to take it for myself. Like, I'm sure he's going to take some of that DNA, take it back to, the people he works for, and be like, I don't know whether Liz is going to know whether he's going to confront and tell Liz what he did, or is she going to find out after the fact. Either way, it plays into the fear that Max had, and now it's like a thing of like, Liz had all these plans of like, oh, you don't have to worry about it, you can trust me with the DNA. It's like, well, that's kind of out the window now, because now this threatens everything because of that. But to be fair, they've literally already got a massive threat in front of them for all of this. So obviously, Rosa and Maria are there, but each one telling the other to leave. But it's like, no, you have alien DNA. You're not leaving, so I'm not leaving either. So, and Alex's brother Gregory was there, and obviously they're trying to get him out of there because it's like, oh, if this DNA bomb goes off like Elena wants it to, you're gonna, die too. So it's like, obviously they're trying to get him out of there. Alex shows up to confront his dad. Flint's there, with the real bomb. Obviously, like, Maria ended up picking it up because she followed her mom's signs of like, oh, do you believe? And she saw the water, the sign, the Aquarius, constellation, and kind of pieced a lot of what her mom said, and she ended up getting the bomb. She takes off running and was like, dude, this isn't good. Max and Flint, he was just kind of like, well, what are you going to do, Max? You're going to shoot me, a decorated officer? The fact of the matter is, it's just going to feed, it's like, And so for Max, he throws down the gun because it's like, well, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me, and starts using his powers. Like, oh, dark side Max. Because he even said it himself. He was like, it makes him sick to heal people, but killing someone, for him, he's like, oh, I enjoy it a lot. Like, he felt bad because it was a part of him that enjoyed, because there was always that conversation like, oh yeah, because he even brought her earlier with Cam. It's like, yeah, she's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be the savior and everything. It's like, well, even he doesn't really 100% know, is he supposed to be a savior or not? Especially with stuff with Luis, made it seem like maybe he's not a savior. Maybe, like I said, maybe it could be he could tiptoe in any direction, either be a great savior or a great destroyer. So it's like, which is so interesting because obviously in some people's eyes, like Liz and everyone else's eyes, he's a savior, whereas in Jesse and Flynn's eye, it's like, oh, you're a monster, you're destruction. So he ends up using his powers on, like I said, was on Flynn, killing him. So hoping someone would get there in time to stop him. But then like there's a confrontation between Alex and his dad, and it's like, the fact of the matter is, what do you expect this to happen, like, when it's all said and done? He's like, once you kind of killed innocent people and framed the aliens for, like, what was your plan? Like, what are you going to do? He's like, Dad, I know you don't, like, the fact is we have the complicated relationship we do, but the fact of the matter is that bomb it's going to kill you. And his dad thinks he's bluffing, but he's like, no, the fact is Gregory's here, like, despite everything, you despite the complicated thing between us, I am still your son, and the fact is I'm telling you this bomb is going to do that. Gregory shows up and he's like, oh, he recognizes that as a weapon, so it's like, what are you going to do with that? Luckily Michael got in the way, just trying to stop everything, but then like Gregory gets in front of Michael to block him from Jesse pointing a gun at him. So it's just like, well, you guys are there, and it's like, this is turning into a mess of a situation. You have Maria running into further away from the con. She throws the bomb, but then like, as she's standing there, her eye starts bleeding. Cam had chased after her, and it's like, well, Maria was in close proximity, and the bomb obviously affects aliens, so she might have saved everyone else. But it's like, well, what, did Maria not see this? Or maybe she did see it and knew that maybe at the end of the day, that did Mimi not see this, but it's like maybe Mimi did see it, and the fact is she knew that Maria was going to be okay, that was all going to work out in the end. Maybe not. I don't know. So it is a situation of like, obviously Liz comes back and sees Max in the situation that he's in, and so it's a thing of like, okay, so she's trying to save Max because it seems like he died, because she even said it herself, like, she lost Rosa and Max before. She's like, I cannot go through that again. So it's a situation of like, Rosa is telling her to go ahead, take care of the ship and everything, but she's like, I can't leave him. Maybe Rosa, it'd be a complicated situation. Rosa had to be the one to bring him back again. I would assume that would be the case because of her powers and everything. She might be the one to kind of be able to jumpstart his heart. But once again, it's like every time he's going down this darker path, like maybe less and less of the Max that Liz fell in love with exists anymore. Who knows? I mean, was Maria lucky enough to be in a situation where she didn't take in enough of the bomb, that maybe it just only a little bit got to her, so she hasn't taken the full effect? Is it spreading across her body? Like, if they get her treatment soon enough, is she going to be okay? Obviously, like. Flint's already dead, so it's like, I mean, also, like, how are you going to answer that? How are you going to handle that? Because it's going to be like, oh yeah, it's a dead body. It's like, oh, he died from a heart attack. It's like, that's going to start looking suspicious again. It's like, you just happen to be nearby, especially if people come around asking questions. What's Jesse going to do the moment he finds out Max killed his son? That's just going to turn gnarly. Once again, the whole thing with Diego getting some of Liz's research. A lot of very, very interesting things. Ultimately, we'll have to wait to see where all this ends up taking us. Next week's episode is the season finale, so I'm curious to see how all of this ends up playing out. Especially like when the conversation comes up about, Mom, why the hell you done what you've done? You know about aliens and everything, yada, yada, yada. Stuff like that. I'm curious to see what she does where her story is going to take her next. Because, I mean, once again, she still wants Jesse dead, so it might be a thing that she might just try and handle it. Once again, the ship still needs to, or that remote still needs to be handled. So there's quite a few things that need to be resolved, and I'm curious to see how it all plays out. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.